Former President Trump's new steel tariff has ignited a major shift in North American trade and defense relations. Could this be the beginning of a global supply chain realignment? On June 4, 2025, former U.S. President Donald Trump enacted a significant increase in tariffs on imported steel and aluminum, raising them from 25% to 50% via executive order. This move, aimed at bolstering domestic industries, particularly impacts Canada, the U.S.'s largest supplier of these metals. Canada supplies nearly half of U.S. aluminum imports and a substantial portion of steel, making it a critical partner in sectors like defense, automotive, and aerospace. The tariff hike has disrupted the integrated supply chains between the U.S. and Canada. American manufacturers, especially in the Midwest, are facing material shortages and increased costs. Industries dependent on Canadian metals are experiencing production delays, leading to potential job losses and higher consumer prices. Economists warn that the increased costs for raw materials are expected to hurt manufacturers and consumers by raising prices on a wide range of goods, from engines to beverage cans. In response to the U.S. tariffs, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a strategic shift in foreign policy, emphasizing stronger ties with Europe. Canada has committed to joining the European Union's Readiness 2030 defense initiative, aiming to enhance military capabilities and reduce reliance on U.S. defense systems. Additionally, Canada is re-evaluating its trade relationships, seeking to diversify its export markets and lessen economic dependence on the U.S. The U.S. risks losing not just a key trade partner, but also one of its closest defense allies. Canada's alignment with European defense and economic structures could diminish U.S. influence in North America and open opportunities for other global powers to strengthen ties with Canada. This realignment may lead to reduced access to Canadian resources and markets for American businesses, potentially impacting sectors ranging from energy to agriculture. The sudden tariff increase has sent shockwaves through U.S. industries reliant on Canadian metals. Manufacturers in states like Michigan, Ohio, and Missouri are reporting immediate challenges, including halted production lines and financial losses. Despite warnings from industry experts about the potential fallout, the tariffs were implemented without a comprehensive legal framework, leading to confusion and uncertainty. The disruption in supply chains is expected to have long-term economic consequences. Businesses may face prolonged recovery periods, increased operational costs, and the need to find alternative suppliers, which could result in higher prices for consumers and potential job cuts in affected industries. For instance, U.S. manufacturers currently meet only about 20% of domestic transformer demand, creating a critical dependency on imports. Lead times have expanded from weeks to 80 to 120 weeks for some equipment, causing project delays of 1 to 2 years in some cases. Swedish hypercar maker Koenigsegg unveils a revolutionary electric motor, while Tesla faces internal disruption amid rising competition. Can the U.S. auto industry keep pace with the global race for innovation? Sweden's Koenigsegg has introduced a groundbreaking electric motor called Dark Matter, weighing just 39 kilograms, yet producing 800 horsepower and 1,250 newton-meters of torque. This ultra-compact motor features an innovative raxial flux design, blending radial and axial magnetic flux paths, enabling exceptional power density. Its rotor and stator are crafted from carbon fiber materials, reducing weight without compromising strength. The motor operates with a 6-phase winding system and is paired with Koenigsegg's proprietary David inverter, built on silicon carbide, allowing up to 1,300 AMPS at 850 volts. This setup ensures high efficiency and significantly lower operating temperatures, pointing to a new era of compact yet powerful electric drivetrains. Dark matter's debut could accelerate American automakers' efforts to innovate in electric motor technologies. As global players push the limits of performance and efficiency, U.S. companies may face growing pressure to match or exceed these standards to maintain their leadership and satisfy an increasingly tech-savvy market. In the wake of Koenigsegg's reveal, Tesla is dealing with internal turbulence. Several senior engineers in its electric powertrain division have reportedly left the company. A leaked internal memo shows Tesla once considered adopting carbon fiber motor components, but abandoned the idea due to concerns over cost and mass production feasibility. This has triggered discussions on Tesla's agility in responding to fast-moving technological changes. With global competition tightening, Tesla's strategic decisions on innovation are under scrutiny as emerging rivals challenge its dominance. Instability at Tesla may affect consumer confidence in one of the most influential brands in the U.S. EV market. While the company remains a symbol of innovation, lapses in technological advancement could open the door for domestic and international competitors, ultimately shaping the choices available to American buyers and possibly influencing EV adoption rates. Koenigsegg has also introduced the Gemera, a hypercar that merges the dark matter electric motor with a twin-turbo V8 engine. The result? A jaw-dropping 2,300-plus horsepower, an acceleration from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in under 1.9 seconds. This hybrid setup offers extreme performance that surpasses many pure electric supercars currently on the market. By combining electric precision with combustion power, the Gemera exemplifies a new approach to high-performance driving. It challenges the all-electric direction pursued by companies like Tesla and revives interest in hybrid platforms as a viable, perhaps even superior, solution in certain use cases. The rise of ultra-high-performance hybrids could reshape American perceptions of electric vehicles. Instead of a one-size-fits-all EV strategy, consumers may begin demanding a broader range of technologies that balance power, efficiency, and versatility, prompting a more diversified and consumer-focused direction for the U.S. auto industry. The ongoing trade war is placing significant strain on U.S. farmers as agricultural exports decline sharply and production costs rise. Can America's agricultural sector withstand this mounting pressure? Between March and May 2025, the Trump administration's new tariff rounds placed U.S. agricultural products in jeopardy. China, Mexico, and Canada, the three largest export markets for American agriculture, responded by canceling orders and imposing high tariffs on corn, soybeans, beef, dairy, and fruit. Although several federal court rulings temporarily blocked portions of these tariffs, the damage is already evident. Declining revenues, canceled export contracts, and domestic price crashes due to oversupply. Millions of American farmers now face the risk of losing their livelihoods, particularly those who do not qualify for emergency relief programs. Consumers may also experience rising food prices as supply contracts, while farmers struggle with lower incomes and mounting financial pressure. Despite reaching a temporary agreement to reduce tariffs, China has maintained a 10% duty on U.S. soybeans, while Brazilian soybeans remain exempt. As a result, China, by far the world's largest soybean market, now sources 70% of its soybeans from Brazil. U.S. soybean exports are projected to fall by as much as 300 million bushels in 2025, a drop of over 20%. Losing its position as a primary supplier to China affects not only trade volumes, but also the broader supply chain, from farms to processing plants to exporters, raising production costs and eroding investor confidence in American agriculture. A sharp decline in soybean exports could reduce planting acreage and farmer incomes, weakening the rural economy and contributing to higher domestic food prices. Beyond crops, the livestock sector has been hit hard. China has canceled all contracts for high-value U.S. breeding stock, cattle, hogs, semen, and embryos, representing a multi-million-dollar market. At the same time, prices for fertilizer, pesticides, and herbicides have doubled due to anti-dumping tariffs on imports from China and India. A worsening labor shortage, particularly among immigrant workers, has left many farms without harvest crews, forcing hundreds of tons of produce to ROT in the fields. The result? Significant waste and economic losses. Soaring production costs and labor shortages may lead to increased food prices, directly affecting everyday consumer expenses. As losses mount, many farmers hoped for federal assistance. However, in May 2025, the government announced a pause in agricultural support payments, along with budget cuts to rural education and climate programs specific to farming. Many producers voiced frustration that, despite complying with sustainable practices and legal export standards, they have received little support, leaving them feeling abandoned during a crisis. Major agricultural associations in the Midwest and Texas have issued a joint statement. "We don't need bailouts. We need a stable and reliable trade policy." Reducing support could diminish agricultural production, strain food supply chains, increase prices, and further undermine the rural economy. U.S. agriculture is facing an unprecedented crisis as trade tensions and environmental pressures reshape the nation's food supply. Can American farmers survive the perfect storm of tariffs, droughts, and global competition? In May 2025, the Trump administration imposed a sweeping 145% tariff on Chinese goods, triggering swift retaliation from Beijing. With a 125% levy on American farm products, the fallout was immediate. China canceled massive soybean and pork orders, slashing U.S. soybean exports by over 97% in just 1 week. A temporary 90-day deal eased tariffs slightly, down to 30% for the U.S. and 10% for China, but failed to restore competitiveness. Brazil and Argentina quickly captured market share, offering cheaper, untaxed goods. The sharp drop in exports disrupted domestic supply chains. Soy-based products, pork, and cereals became scarce, sending food prices soaring. Families across the country are now paying significantly more for everyday essentials, stretching grocery budgets and triggering concern about long-term food security. For low and middle-income households, these rising costs are not just inconvenient. They are forcing real sacrifices in diet, nutrition, and monthly spending priorities. Across America's heartland, the agricultural downturn is deepening. In Iowa alone, more than 500 family farms have closed in just 18 months. California has lost over 1 million acres of arable land to drought and urban water policies. In Nebraska, 28% of livestock farms are either operating at a loss or have shut down. Kansas wheat yields have dropped to their lowest level in nearly 6 decades. As production declines, the cost of staples like milk, bread, and vegetables continues to climb. With fewer local options, the U.S. is increasingly reliant on food imports, undermining national food independence. Households, especially in rural and working-class communities, are bearing the brunt of this shift, facing higher expenses and reduced access to fresh, affordable food. Small towns that once thrived on farming are now struggling with unemployment, empty storefronts, and a sense of economic insecurity. In California, Central Valley has seen over 1,200 farms shut down. Skyrocketing vegetable prices have forced a surge in imports from Mexico. In Iowa, corn production has dropped 17%. Over 500 family farms have folded. Prices for meat and grain have spiked sharply. In Texas, beef prices have surged nearly 38%. Severe drought and dry pastures have led to mass livestock sell-offs. In Nebraska, dairy costs have jumped 20 to 30%. Hundreds of farms have shuttered, disrupting meat processing supply chains. In Florida, orange output is down 65%. Abandoned groves are widespread. Orange juice prices are up dramatically. Consumers in these states are grappling with both food inflation and shortages. For lower-income families, the rising cost of produce, dairy and meat has made basic nutrition harder to afford. As local sources vanish, store shelves become more dependent on out-of-state or international supply, driving up prices even further. In some areas, food banks are reporting record demand, while grocery stores face intermittent shortages of fresh goods. For millions, the crisis is no longer distant. It's showing up at dinner tables. A sweeping steel tariff has sparked a domino effect across North America, shaking decades of economic ties. Could one decision endanger America's role as a global ally and industrial leader? On June 4th, the Trump administration doubled tariffs on Canadian steel imports, from 25% to 50%, bypassing congressional approval. Canada is the top supplier of high-grade steel for critical U.S. sectors, including defense, aerospace, automotive, and infrastructure. This sudden tariff hike sent shockwaves through American industry. Plants in Michigan, Ohio, and Missouri now face shutdowns due to the lack of safe, timely, and certified steel from Canada. Supply chains stalled overnight, orders were canceled, contracts suspended, and prices began to climb sharply. The real cost is being felt by American workers. Thousands employed in auto manufacturing, construction, and military production face layoffs. Consumers, in turn, may see higher prices for cars, homes, and basic goods. What began as a political move is now a looming threat to job security and affordability across the country. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a complete halt to steel exports to the U.S., wiping out 50% of Canada's steel market in America overnight. Instead, Canada is turning eastward, joining the €900 billion Rearm Europe initiative to build a new transatlantic industrial alliance. Carney declared, "We don't sell land, water, resources, or sovereignty to anyone, including the United States." Billions in U.S. defense, trade, and tech contracts once linked to Canada may now flow to European partners. This loss undercuts America's industrial dominance and sends tremors through sectors that once relied on stable North American cooperation. With fewer contracts and shrinking markets, American firms are poised to lose their competitive edge. Trump's offhand joke about Canada becoming America's 51st state drew outrage in Ottawa, where it was seen as a mockery of Canadian sovereignty. The once close-knit alliance within NAFTA and USMCA is unraveling. What used to be a stable trade partnership is now riddled with unpredictability and unilateral decisions. Globally, other allies are watching. If the U.S. can treat Canada, its closest friend, like this, what assurance does anyone else have? As America loses its reputation as a reliable partner, global alliances shift. This erodes trust in American leadership, undermining trade deals and foreign investment. For U.S. workers, this means fewer job opportunities, fewer exports, and a growing sense of economic isolation. While Trump plays tariff hardball, Carney is betting on Canadians. A major middle-class tax cut is now in effect, helping 22 million Canadians. For a two-person household, that's up to $840 Canadian in annual savings. At the same time, Canada is redirecting defense spending from U.S. suppliers to domestic factories, tech hubs, and manufacturing. It's a strategy aimed at boosting self-reliance, innovation, and job creation. Canada's pivot means fewer cross-border contracts and less U.S. influence. While Canadian workers benefit from long-term investment and economic relief, American workers face policy whiplash and missed opportunities. As Canada builds a sustainable model for prosperity, the U.S. risks falling behind.
The anger isn't at Deere, it's at the system. At Harvester Works, over 200 workers were let go at the start of 2025. Some say they found out through a brief, cold email. No explanation. But what hurt most wasn't just losing the job, it was the feeling of being abandoned. They believed in Made in America. They trusted Buy American to support American workers. But no slogan can save a plant if the market disappears. No patriotic promise can stop layoffs when the profits vanish. The slogans feel empty now. Workers are caught between two forces. On one side, companies cutting costs to survive. On the other, government policies passed without asking how they feel. And so the resentment grows, not just at the employer, but at a system that once promised protection and now stands silent. $20 billion, but is it too late? Rumors spread. John Deere plans to invest $20 billion in the U.S. over the next 10 years. But here's the reality. There's no official confirmation. Between 2019 and 2024, Deere invested only $2 billion in U.S. facilities. That's not small, but it's hardly enough to reverse the damage. The question isn't, will they invest? It's, will it be enough? Thousands already laid off. Farmers still without affordable machines. A supply chain still buckling under pressure. A 10-year plan might arrive too late. For many, the damage is already done. Deere isn't running away, but it is shrinking to survive. And that should scare us. Because if John Deere, the titan of agricultural America, can't hold the line, who will be the next to fall? Don't look away if you want to know who's next. Did you know that the price of a Big Mac combo has increased by nearly 70% over the past 5 years? In many major cities, it now costs more than $10. At the same time, McDonald's just reported its lowest quarterly revenue in 4 years. In the third quarter of 2024, McDonald's global revenue fell by 1.5%, a red flag for a company that once enjoyed steady growth. In cities like New York and Los Angeles, the price of a Big Mac combo rose from $6 in 2018 to over $10 today, nearly a 70% increase. For a family of 4, a meal at McDonald's can now cost around $35, roughly the same as eating at a sit-down restaurant. Meanwhile, minimum wages in states such as California and New York hover around $15 per hour. That means an employee has to work close to 1 hour just to afford a single McDonald's meal. These figures aren't just about economics, they directly impact the spending habits of millions of Americans, especially students and blue-collar workers. It forces them to think twice before stepping into the golden arches. McDonald's once proud $1 menu has shrunk significantly, now offering only a few small items like cookies or black coffee for $1. Portion sizes have shrunk too. Fries are about 15% smaller compared to a few years ago, yet prices rise approximately 8% every year. Customers feel they're getting less for more money, and that's damaging loyalty. Meanwhile, competitors such as Sheetz and Wawa attract customers by offering fresher, made-to-order meals at prices 10 to 20% lower than McDonald's. Consumers increasingly compare and seek real value, putting McDonald's in a tough position. This growing gap between price and perceived value is pushing many longtime customers to reconsider their options. Social media and review platforms amplify these frustrations, spreading negative word of mouth quickly. As a result, McDonald's faces an uphill battle to retain its loyal customer base in an increasingly competitive market. Surveys indicate 78% of millennials and Gen Z shoppers carefully check ingredients before buying food, yet only about 5% of McDonald's menu items are fresh. Meanwhile, organic and plant-based food markets are growing over 20% annually. Though McDonald's removed artificial preservatives from its chicken nuggets back in 2016 and improved bread ingredients, these efforts lag behind competitors. The McPlant burger, introduced in 2022, remains limited in availability, missing a big opportunity to capture vegetarian and flexitarian consumers. Highly processed foods with long, complicated ingredient lists raise skepticism among younger customers, damaging McDonald's reputation among modern consumers. Drive-through wait times have nearly doubled, from 3.2 minutes in 2019 to 6.1 minutes in 2025. Even more concerning, 25% of orders are delivered incorrectly, missing items or containing errors, according to J.D. Power's latest survey. The McDonald's mobile app causes frustration with frequent crashes, GPS glitches, and promo codes often not working, dragging its rating down to about 3 stars. Self-service kiosks inside stores also pose problems, especially for elderly customers and people with disabilities. This results in a less user-friendly experience, a major drawback in today's tech-driven world. According to a recent Consumer Reports survey, over 60% of customers are unhappy with McDonald's restaurant design. Cold, rigid seating, absence of music, and lack of play areas for children have diminished the brand's once warm and inviting atmosphere. Traditional bright red and yellow colors have been replaced by muted gray tones, stripping away the coziness and friendliness that defined McDonald's for decades. Cleanliness is another critical issue. 40% of surveyed locations scored poorly on hygiene: dirty tables, overflowing trash bins, and inadequate restrooms. Staff members are often overworked and stressed, negatively impacting service quality and customer satisfaction. The 25% aluminum tariff by President Donald Trump has driven global aluminum prices up nearly 35%. This surge hits hard companies that depend on aluminum packaging. Coca-Cola, a century-old American icon, faces significant challenges amid this cost pressure. The aluminum tariff was introduced as a protective measure to shield the U.S. aluminum industry from what was deemed unfair competition by China and other countries. However, this policy has triggered a near 35% spike in global aluminum prices. For businesses like Coca-Cola, whose cans predominantly use imported aluminum, this means a significant increase in raw material costs. Faced with this financial pressure, Coca-Cola is caught between a rock and a hard place. They must carefully balance raising product prices to offset these rising costs, while also striving to maintain affordable prices to keep loyal customers. Reports suggest that Coca-Cola is actively considering shifting toward plastic bottles as a way to reduce the impact of these tariffs, instead of relying solely on traditional aluminum cans. However, no official statements have confirmed any plans for the company to exit the U.S. market. For now, Coca-Cola appears focused on adapting strategically to minimize losses and protect its market presence. Should Coca-Cola decide to downsize or pull back its U.S. operations, estimates indicate that over 50 manufacturing plants could shut down, directly threatening tens of thousands of jobs. This raises serious concerns given the crucial role these facilities play in production, packaging, and distribution. Beyond direct employment, millions more workers and supporting businesses in the supply chain would face indirect consequences, leading to reduced incomes and negative ripple effects on local economies. However, it's important to stress that no official confirmation has been made by Coca-Cola or labor authorities regarding exact figures. The company partners with approximately 200 bottling partners worldwide, with the majority of products sold in the U.S. manufactured domestically. The actual extent of the impact will depend on how Coca-Cola adjusts its supply chain and business strategies going forward. Coca-Cola is more than just a beverage brand. It's a cultural symbol deeply intertwined with American life for over a century. Any decision by the company to reduce its U.S. footprint or exit the market would not only cause economic loss, but also deliver a psychological blow to consumers, shaking their confidence in a national icon. The brand's emotional connection with customers means that such changes resonate far beyond financial metrics. For instance, if Coca-Cola switches packaging from cans to plastic bottles or scales back production, consumers may perceive this as a significant shift in their drinking habits and brand experience. This serves as a warning sign to other corporations about the importance of safeguarding brand value amid volatile economic policies. Coca-Cola's move could set off a domino effect, influencing other major corporations across industries such as technology, pharmaceuticals, and automotive manufacturing. The current unstable tariff environment and rising production costs are prompting many companies to rethink their manufacturing locations or investment strategies. If this wave of relocation gains momentum, the U.S. risks losing key production facilities and jobs, which would significantly weaken the nation's economic competitiveness. Still, it's worth noting that many businesses are actively seeking ways to adapt through optimizing production processes, diversifying supply sources, and leveraging domestic incentives. The real scale and scope of this impact remain contingent on evolving policies and economic conditions.